The basis of most sitcoms is friendship. Some of the biggest shows have the most famous duos: Jerry and George, Joey and Chandler, Leslie and Ann. Each pair has its quirks, its rhythm, the little things that make their bond special to the audience. But what if there's more to some friendships, ones that almost eclipse the shows themselves? What is it about them that makes them so memorable and evergreen, even decades later? In this video, I want to dive into 3 iconic sitcom pairings and explore what makes their friendship so unique, ridiculous and unforgettable. Hi, I'm Rory, welcome to my channel where we unpack all the weird and wonderful nonsense in TV and film. Let's get into it. We all have that comfort show, a 20-minute escape into the lives of 5 or 6 strangers, forgetting our own problems for a while. We laugh at their antics, feel their ups and downs, and sometimes see ourselves in them. Are you the funny one in your friends? You're probably watching Chandler the most. Are you the leader and mum of your group? Leslie Knope might be your favourite. But it's not what these characters do alone that makes them special, it's how they interact with their friends. Sitcom friendships can be absurd, but at their core, they're grounded in reality. When something bad happens, we feel it. When something good happens, we love it. Much of this comes from the narrative machinery of sitcoms: misunderstandings, miscommunications, and character-driven chaos. It's a classic Friends formula. Miscommunication sparks the plots. One character needs something, can't articulate it, and the resulting scramble creates most of the episode's comedy. But in those moments, we see the characters for who they really are. Friendships are tested just like in real life. The 3 duos I've picked all follow the Bromance template. 2 male friends who spend a lot of time together and often push the boundaries of what a friendship should look like. They can be ridiculous, emotionally raw, and hilariously awkward, and that's exactly what makes them so unforgettable. We'll take a look at JD and Turk from Scrubs, Troy and Abed from Community, and Nick and Schmidt from New Girl. They all have a unique take on platonic intimacy that audiences can't help but fall in love with.
It's guy love between 2 guys.
JD and Turk are a doctor and surgeon at Sacred Heart, a teaching hospital for graduate medical students. Being intelligent and highly qualified professionals, you wouldn't imagine there'd be much room for silliness. But as anyone who's watched Scrubs knows, the entire show is narrated through JD's surreal, wandering mind. The fact that JD and Turk are so bizarre yet hilarious is further emphasised by the backdrop of this seemingly serious setting. From the first episode, it's clear these 2 aren't just friends, they're best friends, bonded since college. Their connection thrives on playful physical comedy, fantasy sequences, and boundary-pushing antics that often confuse their partners and colleagues. But beyond the jokes, JD and Turk share a deep emotional core, something that Scrubs as a whole excels at across its cast. When you peel back the shenanigans, they are brothers who care a lot for each other. Often one of them will be in a crisis, and there aren't many other characters who can pull them out of their hole. Their differences fuel the dynamic. JD is neurotic and reflective, whilst Turk is confident and playful, and Scrubs doesn't shy away from having them fight. Being in separate disciplines, JD is often lumped with the nerd label, whereas Turk is more of a jock. It's a shallow way to look at doctors and surgeons, but it's purely used to pit them against one another. Conflicts arise naturally, sometimes spanning multiple episodes, but they'll always find their way back to each other. JD and Turk push the framework of the sitcom Bromance, absurd, emotionally honest, and unafraid to bend the rules of what a friendship on TV between 2 guys can look like.
Troy and Abed in the morning.
Troy and Abed are jokingly described as codependent, a label that the show itself throws at them, and yet their closeness is exactly what makes their friendship so endlessly entertaining. Unlike the other duos, they start off as strangers, invited into Jeff's study group to revise Spanish. Having recently watched Community, it seems the initial idea was to pair Troy up with Pierce, hence their position at the table. However, it becomes clear that Troy and Abed share a similar thought process and a level of weirdness that the others do not. Their togetherness shows up early, from a rap they do together in Spanish at the end of an episode to Abed tucking Troy into bed. Similar to JD and Turk, they fit the jock-nerd archetype. Troy is a high school football prodigy, and Abed has encyclopedic knowledge of TV and film. Interestingly though, their personalities contrast the standard. Abed has Turk's confident cool, whereas Troy has JD's neurotic energy. Over time, that dynamic starts to dissolve away as Troy is written more nuanced than a boring high school jock. As the first season continues, their shared experiences, respect for one another, and increasing hijinks will deepen their bond. What separates them is Abed's, and by extension Community's, signature humour and selling points being meta. Abed is seemingly the only character who has the notion that he might be in the TV show, but Troy will often point out examples of bizarre behaviours that only happen on TV. The 2 of them love to play act as in-world characters like Kick Puncher and Inspector Spacetime, homages to Robocop and Doctor Who. Whilst this may seem childish, it only endears them more and cements their inseparable bond. Their friendship is at its best when imagination meets emotional attachment. Whether it's building blanket forts or reenacting movies in paintball, their antics drive a lot of Community's narrative. Unlike the others in this video, we get to see what it's like when one has to go. The episode is framed in a typical light-hearted school-wide adventure, but at the end, we feel their collective sadness when one must go. As an audience, we've watched them go from strangers to best friends, making it hard to imagine an Abed without a Troy. Troy and Abed were a vessel for Community's comedic uniqueness. Unafraid of who they are, they showed what it means to be best friends. Two people with joint interests but different personalities, taking on the world one step at a time.
You got one life! This is the way the world works!
Why?
I don't know.
Nick and Schmidt are the most grounded duo here. No fantasy worlds or constant hugging, just bickering, chaos, and occasionally some wisdom. They argue a lot, and their friendship can sometimes feel a little one-sided. Schmidt is very type A, with high standards for himself and unfairly his friends. He expects them to match his uptight ways, especially Nick, who receives equal parts of attention and snark. Nick is lazy and grumpy, old before his time. Many early moments come from his quirks, such as befriending an old man in the park or improvising repairs around the loft. Saying all that, it's hard to see why they're friends. It stems from college where they roomed together, and then overweight Schmidt enjoyed the company of his new schlubby roommate Nick. After college, Schmidt takes his career very seriously, whereas Nick is happy to drop out of law school to become a bartender. This is the main difference between their characters. Schmidt is furious he can't progress further in his job, but Nick is perfectly content working at their local bar. Out of all the duos in this video, Nick and Schmidt undergo the best character arcs, and it's through these arcs that their friendship becomes stronger. Schmidt learns that not everything is about material possessions and high status, and Nick discovers that he has more potential than he could ever have imagined. And the biggest influence on each other's growth is, well, each other. Nick's laid-back and happy-go-lucky approach to life helps simmer down Schmidt's boiling personality, and yet it is Schmidt's great focus and drive that helps Nick out of his life's metaphorical slump. Whilst they're on their way up, they have some great clashes, with each one teaching them compromise, patience, and loyalty. If you compared them side by side from the first episode in Season 1 to the final episode in Season 7, they'd be unrecognisable. Still bickering, but far more willing to reach out to each other for support. All three of these pairs make excellent bromances. Trying to fight over who's best is pointless. They all have their own unique strengths, similarities, and differences, but what connects them all is one defining principle: they're best friends who will always have each other's backs. And it's what makes them eclipse the shows that they're on and so memorable. Their bonds remind us of our friends. I mean, sure, I doubt a lot of you have a dreamatorium or meltdowns over someone giving you a cookie, but what you can hopefully identify with is that shared sense of humour, companionship, and ideals. Friendships are there to make you laugh as much as they are to support you. The differences between these duos mainly comes down to the type of comedy that their shows embrace. JD and Turk's bond thrives on slapstick and absurd physical comedy. Troy and Abed's friendship is elevated by Community's meta humour, lovingly pointing out TV tropes that Scrubs and New Girl undoubtedly fall into. And Nick and Schmidt live in a more grounded, everyday world, bickering constantly but ultimately reuniting stronger. These independent styles showcase how each duo individually expresses loyalty, silliness, and support, but at the same time remaining one of the core emotional pillars of their respective shows. There is no right or wrong way to do a bromance, but there's undoubtedly a blueprint in place that makes for a successful one. It's no surprise that we keep returning to the bromance. They're able to balance comedy with emotional weight, acting as a silly friendship, brotherly love, and relatable dynamic. All three of these duos display these characteristics, making them so easy to watch and continue to rewatch. Whilst it's not overly realistic to imagine you and your friends riding each other's backs like eagles, play acting as fictional characters, or arguing over whether or not use their conditioner, it is their shared situations, experiences, and affection that feel so recognisable. Anyway, that's all from me today. Let me know which comedy duo you think shares a great bromance. Thanks for watching, go well.